must have been in early 70s. The word got around about the band, and I used to go to a pub, as we would call it, a bar, as you might call it in America, that played exclusively American import records. An odd thing to do, you know. And my pals and I used to go Friday night, and they played a lot of things, but the more unusual, the better. And played a lot of things that had a little country rock thing going on, which was popular at the time. And then they started playing, I think, maybe Strike It Lucky, one of the early records anyway. And we just used to, what's that music, you know, because it had this little 40s thing going on in it, and we wanted to know about it, and then little by little picked up the records, you know. I had to track them down a little bit, you know, they were hard to get.
I keep telling you day after day.
Just a song, ladies and gentlemen.
But you won't listen, you always stay and stay.
What I liked about Dan's music was I'd come from a rock background with a lot of jazz in my family, and Dan's music was the only music of the era that had chords and like rhythms that I could relate to. Like they weren't rock rhythms; they were kind of a jug band or real fast swing, and I could play that. I had no one to play with, and the chord changes were interesting to me. I just fell in love with the music.
You always stay and stay.
How can I miss you when you won't go away?
He had these jazz chords that, you know, I like to sing to that, and so I listened and went, gee, I wonder how to learn how to play those chords. How do you learn those chords? And he's funny, and he sings really perfectly, and he's singing that perfect kind of jazz inflected thing, and so I was attracted to everything about it.
I would say that Dan Hicks and the Hot Licks were jazz, folk. I'm not sure if I'm going to go as far as rock. He gave me a sense of the Texas swing feel that was happening with Bob Wills, and it had a real swing sort of feel to it, late 30s, early 40s feel as far as the way that the band swung, and you know, it reminded me a lot of things from Bob Wills, but still, it was very original. The material was very original, and he was definitely a genuine, original person.
He takes that Western jazz, and he's funny and intelligent, and so it's very special in it. And that kind of music and him, they kind of only exist really from him, though, I think.
Well, I think everybody, any songwriter, you know, unless they are just trying to write like any song that will be a hit, in which case they're trying to imitate whatever they heard last on the radio, they usually establish a voice over a time. And obviously, I later on found that Dan obviously had a whole other career, you know, in a different kind of band, and had made this real sort of bold choice to couch his way of saying things in this particular musical vocabulary. It wasn't sort of like something that just appeared out of, you know, one day woke up and then he was playing this kind of music, but he was playing another kind of music completely before that. But there were sort of elements of appreciation of things that went in time past. And I suppose that anybody that can make it, you know, we all in popular music, and I mean that popular music as opposed to pop, which has come to mean just something real transient, is that you take the pieces of what went before and jumble them around until you make a pattern of your own devising. Whatever combination Dan has made out of the pieces that he knows, he's made it completely unique, and yet it also has all these echoes of things that you know went before, and he's not afraid to show where he got those ideas from.
Ignorant, it's like you've seen on top and you don't exactly want to stop.
Songs are really very, they're some of the best things I'd have to say. If I put together a group of 10 to 20 songs of my favorite songs, there would definitely be a Dan Hicks song in there.
He said, I got a sleepy head. He took a pill and had the will to go.
My two favourite songs of his are probably two that are not of the more joyous thing. When people say Dan Hicks and the Hot Wheels, and imagine like the whole package and of the the capturing that feeling of those rhythms and the instrumentation and the use of voices and everything, and then his vocal delivery, and in a way kind of like with a sense of humour in the face of sadness. But my two favourite songs are actually more I Scare Myself and It's Not My Time to Go. So I mean, sorry, trust me to pick the two that are that's just my mood. They're my two favourites. I think they're the two of the best songs ever written.
To see him on a night when he was on, where he would just wing it and play with the audience. He's wonderful at playing with an audience. I think probably one of the highlights I remember was when we were doing Striking It Rich. And there was just a magic that was happening in that room that I can't even, there's no way to explain it. It was just like everybody was a foot off the ground. I mean, it could have been the herb we were smoking too, but believe me, it was just really an experience that I'll never forget.
Tell him everything.
Everything.
And reasonably brought down. A clown could only frown, yeah.
We were playing back east at, I think, Cherry Hill, New Jersey, and there was a big set of stairs outside the theater. And we were walking up to the theater, and there were these Grateful Dead guys, kind of deadbeat type guys with dead heads. And they had this big tank of nitrous oxide or something. They go, hey, you want a hit of this? So Dan went through, and I think Jamie went through, and I said, okay, I'll try it. Took this big hit off the nitrous oxide tank, and it knocked me out. I fell over backwards, hit my head, I was bleeding, and finally they woke me up and said, you gotta go on. So I go in there, and everybody's on stage, and so Dan looks at me, I'm bleeding, and blood on me, I can hardly even talk, and he calls the fastest song. I had to start playing really fast, and that was sort of the way it was. He would always see your weak point and take advantage of it.
There are people who live for the moment, others who don't seem to get much enjoyment. Some are always right, others always say.
You have to be fast on your feet and very precise to sing with him, or he'll spin on you. Wouldn't actually spin, but he might. You had to be really good. I think a really good singer to sing with him.
Down from up above, I feel like singing.
I'll never forget Ahmet Ertegun from Atlantic once said to me when I ran into him at a show at the Troubadour that they were doing, and he walked up and he said, "Are you recording these band of gypsies?" Because basically, that's that's what they looked like. Actually, Dan, I think at the time when I told him, had taken it as a compliment.
It would be nice just, people seek out good music that they get to hear Dan and his Hot Wheels. Because they're really very good. They were always really very good.
Dan and I were very good friends. And my wife was also a very close friend of Dan's. In fact, to the extent where our youngest daughter her name is Danielle. If it would have been a boy, it would have been Dan, and since it was a girl, we named her Danielle. We were very close, and I still feel a real closeness to him, even though we don't speak to each other as much as I'd like to.